I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV Velocities in Music, the best kept secret in music reviews. Indie. Let's talk about indie music. You like indie music?
Yeah,
probably not as much as I like indie music. I mean, my whole musical upbringing went from Led Zeppelin to Radiohead to Death Cab for Cutie, and then just the indie bomb was dropped. Early Death Cab, like We Had the Facts, There's Something About Airplanes, Modest Mouse, then it bled into 90s indie that I would consider like Pavement, Pavement's Crooked Rain. That's an landmark album for me. Somewhere along the line, though, I found this band called Someone Still Loves You, Boris Yeltsin, which is about as indie as you can get, both an album title or band name, album titles. Their debut album in 2005 was called Broom, and I got into that album pretty hardcore. I mean, just these. I don't want to go. It's indie rock, but it's not really that rocky. It follows a lot of pop formats, has a lot of pop hooks to it. Yet it's very underproduced. It's very hook focused and melody focused. And Someone Still Loves You, Boris Yeltsin. We actually reviewed their third album, Let It Sway, which came out in 2010.
I believe so.
2010, yeah. So that was early on for us. But Broom, Pershing in 2008, Let It Sway in 2010, which actually we were pretty favorable on. We gave it a review, mid to upper 70s.
Yeah.
Which means pretty solid album. They've definitely rocked out a little bit more.
Yeah, they did.
Yep, and then now in 2013, they have Fly By Wire, their fourth album. And this is a bit different. They're a little bit more sentimental, heartfelt. They turned the rock down a bit. It's no longer turned up to an 8 or a 9 on the of 11. They turned it down to like a 5 or a 4, I'd even say. This album really focuses on melody. It focuses on, it opens with piano, and I think that that's a really good way to open this album because it's so much more endearing, and the vocal parts are so much more focused on conveying emotion than their previous efforts, where they have a little bit more quirky, upbeat songs.
And they do that not only through the melody structure and the construction of the songs themselves, they also do it in the production, they do it in the instrumentation. They do that to blend the two elements together to really enhance that emotion that they're going for, because they're going for that kind of nostalgic vibe. You had mentioned Youth Lagoon as a possible influence.
They've definitely been listening to Youth Lagoon.
Yeah, I also heard some dream pop. I heard some like My Bloody Valentine, and even more contemporary, some like a more indie Silver Sun pickups at times, especially on tracks like Nightwater Girlfriend, the ones that rocked out a little bit more. And that's actually a good track to kind of use as an example in the change in their sound, because that's, it sounds in its songwriting like something that would be more on one of their previous records, but it's produced to be so much dreamier and so much fuzzier at the same time. It's just this thick wash of sound, despite the fact that it's actually kind of a driving rock song. And that's something that you hear a lot of on this album. As you mentioned, they're turning the rock down a little bit. It just sounds like more letting the melody seep out of the sound rather than just kind of rock out.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple of acoustic tracks that I really keyed in on. Miss Dot, track 5, acoustic guitar, very much old school, Someone Still Loves You. Bright Leaves, track 8, also another sentimental acoustic ballad that I think that this band just has a way of just really, they make emotional indie rock without making it sound trivial or twee, or it's just a very nice presentation to it. It's relatable, it's authentic, and that's from my experience in reviewing music, that goes a long way to kind of bridge with the listener. Now there are a couple of more driving, rockier tracks, maybe even poppy tracks. Track 2, Young Presidents, I think is just a very pop. It's a pop song. Let's just get that out there. I think it's very nicely presented. They do a really good job of creating original sounding indie pop music, and that's something that's very special about this band. These guys are from Columbia, Missouri, so that's where my dad went to college. Cool. And most of my family. So I kind of really want to go and see. Like, I just imagine, Columbia, Missouri. It's just a small town of 85,000 people. So it's not like in Iowa. That sounds like a lot. But a lot of people out there live in big cities. So it's that is kind of a small town that doesn't usually have a big indie scene or music scene in general, but from Missouri to have an indie pop band like Someone Still Loves You come out, I think is pretty cool. So these guys do a really good job of kind of capturing that indie sense and not overdoing it. These songs are exceptionally well written.
Yeah, they are.
I feel like some of the lyrics on these songs, the guitar parts and the melodies that they're writing really just kind of go a long way.
Yeah, and I'll be interested to see where they go next from here.
Yes.
Because this honestly isn't really a move that I expected from them. Let It Sway was a little bit more straightforward rock. It still had a lot of great songwriting on it. I mean, I gotta say, nothing from this band has really particularly blown me away, but I always enjoy them. And I enjoyed this one in a much different way than I expected compared to the experience I've had with their past work. So moving forward, it'll be interesting to see if they really dive into that dream pop indie sound, or if they maybe go back a little bit more to the guitar-based rock kind of stuff. Who knows?
There's two different points on here where I think that they took their sound to the next level as a band. They improved on production. I think this album is probably the best produced album that they have yet. And they also improved on making their sound cohesive. They really, this follows, none of these songs sound like they're that out there from any other song on this record. I mean, they all seem to fit the same kind of mold, even though they're taking their sound into different genres on several of the different tracks here. So I felt like that fluidity of the album was actually the best I've heard from Someone Still Loves You yet. Now, where I think this album really was limited was in scope. This album doesn't set out to change the world. It doesn't set out to do something brand new with music. It just sets out to be a good indie rock / pop album. And I think that it achieves that. So I think that my rating, I actually like this album more than it impressed me from a musical perspective. Typically, I'm the one who's pushing for experimental music, right?
I see what you mean, yeah.
And for whatever reason, this album I think is just well written, well produced, good hooks, and it made me want to go a 79 on this one.
All right, I'm going to go 77.
Okay, so we have a mid to upper 70s album, probably right there at 78 overall. That is a solid album. You guys should check this out if you're into indie pop or indie rock and like that lo-fi sound from an indie band. Please do let us know your thoughts at www.velocitiesofmusic.com or youtube.com/velocitiesofmusic. As always, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and let us know what albums from 2013 you're into and would like to see us review. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, moving music critique forward.
She can't